Please subscribe. The Seoul National University Hospital Massacre of 1950 remains one of the darkest days in South Korean history. It was a day when the country's medical community was brutally attacked by the invading North Korean army. The Korean War had broken out on June 25, 1950, and it had quickly escalated into a full-blown conflict. On June 28, 1950, the North Korean army had launched a surprise attack on the Seoul National University Hospital, which was located in the heart of the city. The hospital had been one of the largest and most well-respected medical facilities in the country, and it had been filled with doctors, nurses, inpatient civilians, and wounded soldiers. The North Korean army had not discriminated between the patients and medical staff. Everyone in the hospital had been targeted. The Korean People's Army had wiped out one platoon guarding the hospital and began to systematically massacre the medical personnel, inpatients, and wounded soldiers. The victims were either shot or buried alive in shallow graves. The civilian death toll alone was estimated to be 900, including many women and children. The massacre had shocked the country, and it had become a symbol of the brutality of the North Korean army. The South Korean government had condemned the attack, and it had become a rallying cry for the country's armed forces. Despite the tragedy, the South Korean medical community had refused to be defeated. In the years that followed, they had worked tirelessly to rebuild their hospitals and medical facilities. They had also used the tragedy as a call to action, urging the government to invest more resources in the country's armed forces and to prepare for the possibility of future attacks. The Seoul National University Hospital Massacre of 1950 had left a scar on the country's history, but it had also shown the resilience and strength of the South Korean people. They had refused to be defeated by the brutality of the North Korean army, and they had worked to create a better and safer future for their country. As the Korean War raged on, the South Korean people were determined to defend their homeland from the invading North Korean army. The memory of the Seoul National University Hospital Massacre had galvanized the country, and they were committed to protecting their medical facilities and personnel at all costs. The South Korean military had learned from the tragedy, and they had implemented new strategies to protect hospitals and other vital infrastructure. They had stationed more troops at hospitals and had installed better security systems to prevent similar attacks from happening again. The tragedy had also highlighted the importance of international cooperation in times of crisis. The United States had sent troops to aid the South Korean military in their fight against the North Koreans, and other countries had provided aid and support. Despite the horrors of war, the South Korean people had remained resilient. They had banded together to support their troops and to provide aid to those affected by the conflict. The memory of the Seoul National University Hospital Massacre had served as a reminder of the importance of unity and cooperation in times of crisis. The war eventually came to an end, but the memory of the tragedy remained. The South Korean government had erected a monument in memory of the victims of the massacre, and it had become a symbol of the country's resilience and determination in the face of adversity. The South Korean medical community had also continued to honor the memory of those lost in the massacre. They had worked to improve their facilities and to provide better care to their patients. They had also established programs to support the mental health of medical personnel and to ensure that they received the care and support they needed. The Seoul National University Hospital Massacre had been a tragedy beyond words, but it had also shown the resilience and strength of the South Korean people. They had refused to be defeated by the brutality of the North Korean army, and they had worked to create a better and safer future for their country. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.